Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be talking about try-catch block, and finally keyword. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and create a new package. I'm going to call it try-catch. Try-catch finally. Okay, let's go ahead and create a new class. I'm just going to call it try-catch finally, and have the main method. Okay. So what is a try-catch block, right? Try-catch block, we usually have that to catch different types of exceptions. Now, what that means is, let me show you guys an example. So let's say, right, as we program, many times we get different types of errors that this shows up, right? So let's say we have something like int, let's do an array, let's say int, my int equals, let's say we have 1, 2, 3, right? Okay, you could put in whatever you want. And then in here, let's say we try to do s out, and we try to print out my int. And for the array, let's say if I do 0, right? Obviously, it's going to print out this 1, right? So let's just go ahead and see if this works. There you go. Great. It works, right? As you know, this is the 0, this is 1, and this is 2. That's the index value, right? So you have 0, 1, 2. Now, if I put 3 over here, because again, 3 doesn't exist, right? The index 3 doesn't exist. So if I do run as, again, we get all these different type of errors, right? Again, if we read this thing, we can actually understand what he's saying. Right here is an exception in the main method, in the thread main, which is this, right? This thing right here. And it's saying that it is array out of bound exception, meaning index 3 out of bound for length 3, right? And again, it's on line number 8, which is this thing right here. What Ali's saying is that because I have 0, 1, 2, this 3 index value 3, there's nothing after 3, so it doesn't exist. But if I was to put 4 and let's say 5, or or if we just leave 4, this thing will work because that'll just print out that'll print out 4, right? So anyways, if I don't have that, right? If I don't have that, obviously it gives me that all these errors, and again, it just looks super scary, right? Again, just a realistic scenario. Realistic scenario would be something like the scanner class, right? Or if I was to try to catch this exception, what I can do is I can do it this way. Let's say I have this try, right? Try catch block. Try is basically do this, right? That's basically what it's saying in the try method. Try is basically saying, this thing basically says, try to do this, and if this doesn't work, right here, like if try block is not valid or doesn't work, do this, right? So basically, if the try block doesn't work, then the catch block, this is the exception, basically do this. Now, what that means, this is a thing that we want to try and do, right? So let's say I was to take this, right? I was to track this and this. Right now, as you know, we are getting these issues over here. Exceptions E. Over here, we can say S out. We can print out whatever, right? Whatever we want. We can say exception occurred, something like that. It doesn't really matter, right? So this time, what will happen, instead of getting this issue right here, we're just going to get this exception occurred, okay? If I was to print this, Okay, see, exception occurred, right? Right now, we know that there's some exception occurred, right? Because this is a smaller code change, we don't have to put anything additional. Again, this is much more end user friendly, right? A realistic scenario would be like, like whatever a user types in like their password or something, right? Obviously, that's like a realistic scenario. So how we would do that is, let's go ahead and create another one. Let's go ahead and create another try catch block, right? Or here, I'll just comment all this thing out. So that way, I'll just comment all this thing out. So I'll just comment all this thing out. So that way we don't have to worry about that. And I'll just create a new one. Let's go ahead and get a user input, right? We need a scanner, right? Scanner equal new scanner system.in. Okay, so we have that, right? Again, it's coming from a java.util.scanner. So system.in, that's basically how you get the user input in there. So in this, many times you can say, we can say, whatever we want, right? So over here, if we were to say, what is your age, right? Or yeah, what is your age? It's like, whatever, it doesn't really matter what you put in there. But let's say I was trying to do this, and again, we're looking for an integer, right? So we're looking for an integer value. So let's say we do int age equals scanner dot next int. Okay, and then let's actually print it out. Age, and if we was to run this, what is your age? Let's say 25, right? It prints out 25 because that's the result you're getting. Now, what if I run this thing again, and this time I say ABC? ABC is not an age, right? That's not a number, that's an integer. It gives me all these issues, right? We have input, mismatch, exception, and it gives me all this thing, try catch block on line number 12, something happened, which is this thing, right? Again, it just gives me all these different type of errors that exist in there, right? It only gives me the right result whenever I have int, whenever I actually put an actual number. But from a user perspective, they can put whatever, right? And if a user sees these type of errors, they get scared, like they're like, oh my God, what did I do? So in this case, what you can do, you can actually put that in a try catch block, right? And how you would do that, let's say we do try catch, right? In the try block, I have this, right? Scanner. Again, I can also put this outside, doesn't really matter. But let's just say we put it in here. It's not a big deal. We have this scanner int, and this time to do handle exception, this time, if I was to run this thing again, Java application, what is your age? Oops. Let's say I put in the right one, right? Let's say 25. It gives me 25. Great, perfect. If I was to run this thing again, what is your age? I put ABC. It didn't give me anything. It didn't throw me any error. What happens? Right? So the thing is, because we have an exception, it is catching it, but it is not giving me any output, right? Now what I can do s out, and I can say exception occurred. Review exception occurred, right? We can just say. exception occurred, or input is not valid, whatever, we can say whatever we want, right? If we was to do this Java run, what is your age? Let's say I do 6, right? Okay, I get 6. Now if I was to run it again, and this time let's say ABC again, there you go, right? See, it gives me that value. Exception occurred, input is not valid, right? And then we also have this finally keyword, okay? This finally block. In this finally block, what this does, here I'll actually S out this finally block always gets executed, something like that, right? So if I was to try to run this thing again, okay, what is your name? What is your age? Let's say 65. See, it's printed out 65. This final block always gets executed. So let's try to do this thing again. This time, let's say I put ABC again. Exception occurred, input is not valid. This finally block always gets executed. Now, what that means is, let's say this finally, right, regardless of what happens in the catch block, this finally block will always execute. So if I don't have this, right, if I don't have exception, if I don't have the catch, right? See, what is your age? Let's say I put the first one, let's say I put the correct, right? This final class always gets executed. This time I run it again. Let's say I put whatever I want. This finally block always gets executed, right? So this finally, regardless of what happened here, this thing always gets printed. Okay, so finally is another thing that we can do is think of this as, regardless of, doesn't really matter what happens here, this thing will always execute regardless. So this is something, if you want to if you want to tell some sort of a message to the user, in that case, you can always have this thing in there. So yeah, so hopefully this makes sense as far as how the try catch block works. Yeah, and sometimes you can also have, like, here, if I was to remove this, right? If I was to remove this, and let's say this exception, right? This exception is, let's say I don't have, let's say I don't have this try block, right? And I don't have this, I just have that. If I was to run this thing, what is your age? Let's say I put ABC. Again, we have this input mismatch exception, right? What we can do here, because you create a try catch block, right now, let's say I have this, right? I'm putting that in here. Now on the catch, if I was to put this specific thing, input mismatch exception, I can actually have that. I don't have to have exception. Exception is, that's like the parent, right? It will capture every single one of them. So if I was to put input mismatch exception, and let's say IME, again, the reason I put IME is because, input mismatch exception. We usually just take the first characters of each letter, and that's how it works, right? We can have that, and we can actually just print it out as out, and we can say input mismatch exception, right? This is specifically saying what type of exception it is. So if I was to run this, right, and I say ABC, that's input mismatch exception, right? What if I have, let's say, null pointer exception, right? And NPE, null pointer exception, because many times we'll, whenever we're creating like an array or something, we can have null in here, right? So in this case, if I was to run this, What is your age? ABC. You can see it still throws me an error. Why? We have a catch block. Why does it throw this exception now? Right? Why it does is because, again, we said null pointer exception. We want to catch only this, right? But over here we have input mismatch exception. That's why it still throws out that error. It is not like, if else. It is not like that. It is try catch, meaning it'll try to do this. If it doesn't work, it'll try to catch this type of exception, right? Because again, this is an input mismatch exception. It is not a null pointer exception. That's why it still throws out this exception error. Now I can have another, if I have another catch block over here, right? I can have exception E, right? And you can just say over here that just like we had before, we can say exception occurred. You can put whatever you want, right? So this time, if I was to run this thing again, what is your age? Let's say it's to ABC. See, this time it gives me exception occurred. Okay, so you can actually have multiple try catch block as well, as many as you want. But yeah, that's one way of doing this then. Yeah, hopefully this was helpful, guys. If you do have any question, if this was helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And if you do have any other question or anything that you want me to go over, please let me know. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.